Hi, in this video we're going to learn about long divisions, but before we start with the polynomials, we're going to start with a simple number. So how do we divide 109 by 4? Okay, so the first thing we're going to do is that we're going to try to divide 1 by 4. We can't, so we're going to take a look at the first two digits, which is a 10. So 4 times what number can give me any number equal to 10 or smaller? It would be 2, because 2 times 4 is 8. Then 10 minus 8 is 2, and I'm going to see if I can divide 2 by 4. Obviously not, so I'm going to bring down 9. Now, what number can I actually multiply 4 by to get any number equal to 29 or less? So it would be, I guess, 7, because 4 times 7 is 27. If I picked 8, I would have a 32, which would be bigger than 29. If I picked 6, I would have a 24, which is a lot smaller than 29. I still have another digit to fit, which is 7. Right? Okay, so 29 minus 27 is 2. Another way I could write this is that 109 is equal to 4 times 27 plus the remainder, which is 2. Now I'm going to use the same logic to do this with a polynomial. So let's start with a basic one here. I'm going to divide 3x squared plus 5x minus 6 by x minus 1. So what I'll do in this case, I'm going to take a look at the first term here. I'm going to divide 3x squared by x. 3 divided by 1 is 3. X squared divided by x is just x. So I'll get 3x. I'm going to write that on top of over here. Then I'm going to multiply this term by x again, so I get 3x squared. And then I'm going to multiply it with the second term, which is negative 1, and I'm going to write negative 3x. Now, it's very important that I write my sentences very clearly, and then I'm going to make sure I add them, I'm going to make sure that I subtract them correctly. So what I did over here, when I actually wrote these steps, I had 29 minus 27, so I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to subtract these terms from each other. So if I subtract it, I will have a negative sign here. I'm going to write it in a different color, and a positive sign here. So, and then I'm going to get rid of that. What I will end up with is 3x squared minus 3x squared, which is 0. And then I have 5x plus 3x, which is positive 8x. I want you to write it like this so you'll never make a mistake. What I'm left here is a negative 6, so I'm just going to write the negative 6 over here. Then I can actually get rid of the 0 here because I don't want to see it. Now the next step is to divide this again by the first term here. So I have 8x divided by x. I'm just going to end up with 8. So I'll write it over here plus 8. And then I'll do the same thing all over again. So 8 multiplied by x is just 8x. And 8 multiplied by negative 1, it is negative 8. What do I do next? I will subtract them from each other. When I subtract, I will have a negative 8 here and a positive 8 here. So I'm going to get rid of that. Now I have 8x plus minus x. I have a 0 here. Minus 6 plus x. I have a positive 2. Therefore, the way I did it here is that I had 109 equal 4 multiplied by 27 plus the 2, which is the remainder. I'm going to do the same thing here. So if I were to rewrite this expression, I will write 3x squared plus 5x minus 6 is equal to x minus 1, 3x plus 8 plus 2. Right? That is the final answer. So let's take a look at the next example here. I have 3x cubed minus 5x squared minus 7x minus 1 divided by x minus 3. So what I need you to do is to pause the video right now, try to do this on your own, and then come back to me. Okay, so let's now learn how to do this. So we take the first term, which is 3x cubed. We divide it by the first term here, which is x. I will end up with 3x squared. I'm going to write it over here. I'm going to multiply 3x squared by x here, so I get 3x cubed. And I'm going to multiply it by negative 3, which is going to give me negative 9x squared. The next step is to actually subtract these two sentences from each other. So I will have minus. Okay, so when I multiply the negative sign here, I will have a negative x cubed and a positive 9x squared, and I get rid of that. So I will end up with 3x cubed minus 3x cubed, which is 0. 5x squared plus 9x squared is just positive x squared. And then I'm just going to bring down my remaining terms, which is minus 7x minus 1 minus 0. It's just minus 1. Okay, great. So I'm going to get rid of the 0 here. I'm going to take my next term, which is 4x squared, divided by my first term here again. So divided by x, I will end up with 4x. So then I'm going to add this with 4x. And then I'm going to do the same thing. So 4x multiplied by x, I will get 4x squared. And 4x multiplied by negative 3, I get negative 12x. And then the next step is to again subtract these from each other. So minus, and I'm going to multiply the negative sign into this bracket. And I'm going to get rid of it. So therefore, I'm going to end up with 4x squared minus 4x squared, which is 0. Negative 7x plus 12x. So 12 minus 7 is 5x. And then I have the negative 1 here because I'm adding the like term. So over here, basically, we're subtracting, or if you'd like, adding the like terms. It's very important to notice that. So negative 1, there is no like term here, so I have a 0. So negative 1 minus 0 is just negative 1. And I'm going to get rid of the 0 here. I still have another step left, so I have an extra step here, which is my 5x. So I'm going to take my 5x. I have to divide it by my first term here. So the same thing over and over again. I will end up with 5. So I'm just going to add it over here. So plus 5, multiply 5 by the first term here, which is 5x. Multiply it by the second term here. It is negative 15. And then guess what? We're going to subtract them from each other. And I'm going to multiply this negative to the whole sentence here. I'm going to get rid of this. So I have 5x minus 5x, 0. Negative 1 plus 15 is just 14. So how can I actually rewrite this better? I can write it as 3x. I write it in yellow. I can write it as 3x cubed minus 5x squared minus 7x minus 1 is equal to x minus 3 times 3x squared plus 4x plus 5 plus 14. Just notice that you have always, for this term, so not your factor, for this term, you always have one less power than what you actually started with. So if you started with an x cubed, you're going to end up with the x squared. So in the previous question, you started with a 3x squared and you ended up with just an x. So one power less than what you actually started. We can see the pattern. All right, so let's try this example over here. So you have this, just pause the video and let me know how you do in the comments, and I'm gonna be back with the solution. So now that we're back, let's see how we can attempt this. So I have the first term divided by the first term here. So I have 3x cubed divided by x squared. I will end up with 3, and then these two are gonna cancel. X cubed divided by x2, so that's x. 3 minus 2, so that's just 3x. I'm going to write 3x here. I'm going to multiply it by each of these terms. So I have 3x times x squared, it's 3x cubed. 3x times 1, it's just 3x. And then I'm going to subtract these from each other. And remember, when we're subtracting or adding the like terms. And as we mentioned before, it's very important, and I'm going to show you why. I'm going to multiply the minus sign into the bracket, so I get a negative 3x and a negative 3x and a negative 3x cubed. So I'm going to get rid of that. 3x cubed minus 3x will just give me a 0. And then I have 2x squared minus 3x. Now, these two are not like terms. What does that mean? One of them is x squared and one of them is x. These two can't be added together, right? So since they can add together, I'm going to assume that I have a plus 0 times x squared here. And then I'm going to write my negative 3x. Which I had from before, right? And then when I'm actually adding, I have 2x squared minus 0x squared. So it's just 2x squared by itself. So I'm just going to write plus 2x squared. And then for my 3x, I don't have anything up top here. So basically what I can imagine writing here, it's 0x plus 5, 0x plus 5, because this is just 0, right? And if I'm adding 0x minus 3x, I will just have a negative 3x here. And then do I have a term that is like 5 here? I don't have a number, so I'm just going to bring 5 down. All right, very good. I'm going to get rid of the 0. Then what I'm going to do is that I'm going to take my first term again and divide it by the first term here. So I have 2x squared divided by x squared. These two are going to cancel, and I'm going to be left with 2. So this is plus 2. And then what I'm going to do here is going to multiply 2 by each of these terms. I will have 2 times x squared, it's just 2x squared, and 2 times 1, it's just plus 2. All right, then I will have to subtract these from each other. So I'm going to multiply a negative sign in this bracket. I'm going to get rid of the negative sign. So I will have 2x squared minus 2x squared. I will have a 0. So 3x, I don't have a like term over here, so I'm just gonna write plus 0x. So I have 3x minus 0x, it's just minus 3x. And then 5, I actually have a like term here. I have another number, so I have 5 minus 2, which is just 3. Very good. Now at this point, because I can't really divide negative 3x by x squared, I could, right? I will just get a negative 3 over x because these two are going to cancel out. But because I don't want to go there, I'm just going to stop at this point. I think this is all we needed to know. So this is my final answer. This is my remainder. Therefore, if I were to rewrite this, I could write it as 3x cubed plus 2x squared plus 5 is just x squared plus 1 times 3x plus 2 times plus, and what I can do, I can just factor out a 3 here, plus 3, 1 minus x. All right, so let's now try another example here. So try this again, pause the video and get back to me with your answer. All right, so before we start, I have my original polynomial here. It's not in the right order, so if you're smart and you did this correctly, you will actually rearrange this to get a better form. So I want to rearrange them with the highest power to the lowest, which is what we're used to. Great. Now we can actually start. So I take the first term divided by the first term. So I have 6 divided by 2. It's 3x cubed divided by 1x. It's just x squared. So I will have a 3x squared. Multiply it by the first term and the second term. So I will have 6x cubed minus 3 times 5 is 15x squared. All right, what we're going to do, we're going to subtract it. So I'm going to actually multiply a negative sign in there. So I have 3x cubed minus, sorry, I have 6x cubed minus 6x cubed. They're going to cancel out. So I have a 0 minus 15x squared plus 15x squared. So another 0. I have negative 2x minus a 0x. So I have a negative 2x and 5 minus 0, which is just 5. Now what I'll have to do is to divide 2x, or sorry, negative 2x by 2x. I will get a negative 1. So I'm going to add that negative 1 here, multiply it by both of these terms. I get a negative 2x, negative 1 times negative 5 here. It's just going to give me positive 5. What do I have to do? I have to subtract them by each other. So I will multiply this over here. I'm sure you can do this faster, but I want to follow my steps. So these two are going to cancel out and give me a 0 as a remainder. So once you get a 0 as a remainder, it means that you can actually write this without a plus sign. So I have my original polynomial equals my 2x minus 5, which was truly a factor, times what I actually found out here. All right, now that you are all experts in this, now for our last example, I will have you pause this video for practice. Make sure you do it. Follow every step that we did in every other example that we did today, and I'm sure you will be fine. All right, so now that you're back, let's try to do this together. So first things first, let's rearrange this. This doesn't look good. So I'm gonna write x. So I'm going to write x plus 2. And this is my highest power. So 2x to the 4 minus 4x cubed plus 26x minus 6. So I divide the first term by the first term here. So I had 2x to the 4 divided by x, 2, and these two are just going to give me an x cubed. I'm going to write that over here, multiply it by both of these terms. I will end up with 2x to the 4 plus 4x cubed. I will have to subtract them. So a minus here, a minus here. And then I will end up with 0. And then take a look at here. They actually are going to add up. So negative 4x cubed minus negative 4x cubed is just negative 8x cubed plus 26x minus 6. Now I have negative 8x cubed divided by x, which is negative 8x squared. I'm going to get rid of the 0. So I will write negative x squared here. Again, multiply it by the two terms. So I will end up with negative x cubed minus 2 times negative 8 is negative 16, and then I have the x squared here. Now let's subtract them. If I'm subtracting again, the signs are going to change. 8x cubed minus 8x cubed is just going to cancel out. 26x, so you see I have an x squared here. So since I don't have an x squared term on top, I will just have 0 on top. So the way I could write this, I could actually assume that I have a 0x squared here. So 0x squared plus 16x squared, it would just be 16x squared. And then for my 26x, I don't have a x term here, so I will just bring it down, 26x. Minus 6, no terms here, it will just come down. So we'll do the same thing we did before, 16x squared, the first term here. We're going to divide it by the first term over here, which is x. I will end up with 16x. I'm going to write it here, multiplied by the first term, so 16x times x, I will get 16x squared, and then 16x times 2, I will get, what's 16 times 2? It's 32, right? 2 times 6 is 12, 2 times 1 is 1, and 2, 32, yes, so I will get 32x, that's it. Again, we're subtracting, so multiply a negative here and a negative here. Get rid of the negative. 16x squared minus 16x, 0. 26x minus 32. So what is 32 minus 26? I get 2 here, 12 here, 6. So it's just 6. Because 32 is the bigger number, so I get negative 6x. And then negative 6, there's no terms here, so we can't add it to anything. So I have negative 6x minus 6. And no, we are not done yet. Why? Because I can still divide my first term here by my first term over here. So what I'll have is negative 6x divided by x. It would be negative 6, and then the x's are going to cancel out. So I will add a negative 6 to my term here, and then I'm going to multiply it by both terms. So I would have negative 6x minus 6 times 2 is 12. So if I'm subtracting, these two are going to cancel out, and then I'm going to be left with just the number 6. So let's rewrite it on a different page. So how would I write this? So I will have 2x to the 4 minus 4x cubed plus 26x minus 6 is just equal to x plus 2 times, we found that to be 2x cubed minus 8x squared plus 16x plus the remainder, which was positive 6, so it would be plus 6. All right, there you have it. If you have any questions, please make sure you comment down below. You can go to our website, www.helixacademy.ca, go to our forum and post any questions that you might have, and we'll make sure that we make a video just for you. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye.